the job market and businesses in general did not have the same type of loyalty to the person as the person had to the company. So, if you ask me, every person is a freelancer or should consider themselves to be. It is a contract world in today's arena that allows a person who is currently employed to not feel guilty about looking for other opportunities. Other opportunities may exist, they might not. But if you have a good grasp of exactly what your strengths and weaknesses are, how you want to work, do you want to work remote? Do you want to live somewhere else? Do you need to be available only for a certain amount of hours? Do you want to work with companies that only have a specific purpose? These are the things that if you plan ahead of time, you can capture those opportunities if they present themselves. Actually, you can find out that you actually want an opportunity and you can present yourself. Hi, my name is Kiera. Thank you so much for coming to take a look at the show. This is Kiera of All Trades, brought to you by Phresh Phactory TV. In today's episode, I just want to give a little bit of a backstory as to why this show, Kiera of All Trades, exists and why there is a need for a show like this that is not already taken. So, I'm Kiera, and this is Kiera of All Trades. It is a show about a person, me, and the many jobs I have had over my lifetime. This may not seem very exciting on first pass, but I have a company called Phresh Phactory Inc. It is a human capital management firm. This is a term that is used sort of to describe something like a human resources company. A human resources company works as a hiring vessel. It works as a training vessel within a company. The difference between a human resources company and a human capital management firm is, for one, we are a separate company altogether. We do work with purpose driven partners that are separate companies, but unlike working as just a separate entity altogether that's just there to make hiring decisions for this company or bring them potential people that could be hired, we actually work as a part of the business trying to help them in a long term fashion. Now, I say trying because not every company wants to hear what we have to say and they're not always a match. Some companies only want us to hire for their positions and that's it. Maybe at one time that may have been something that we would do, but as the company has progressed, now we only work with startup companies, technology based businesses, and purpose driven companies of any sort that understand that we want to be long term partners. So, a company doesn't just come to us and say, hey, we want to hire for this position. Can you hire for us? Yes, we can do that. But we're most certainly going to install information into their psyche, their business, their understanding so that they can make the best business decisions for themselves. So sometimes the company may know exactly what they need done, but it's not necessarily what, sometimes it's the how. So we specialize in helping to create the fullest vision that is going to work for the long term. Sometimes things are done quickly for short term, and that's the result that you get. So, with us, we work with those businesses as a partner over time, and we discuss all of the things that they may need today, tomorrow, and help to build the structure around the hiring process and work to have a long term vision that is going to work to establish a baseline as well as something that can be grown upon over the years. That's the difference between a traditional human resources company and human capital management from our standpoint. We like to say that we work in technology, but we also work in ideas and people. So sometimes you can have people, sometimes you can have ideas, sometimes you can have technology, but all three of those need to work together, and that may not be the business of the partner company. They may have a particular area that they work in, but that's our area. So we work with those businesses as a partner over long term so that however we work together today will have great impact over time. So this show exists because at one time, Phresh Phactory Inc. was working with lots of different kinds of companies as time progressed to be able to help them build teams. Actually, before it was Phresh Phactory Inc., it was Phresh Phactory, and it started out working with creative people. So if you look on the internet and you just happen to go back into the searches, you will find information that says Phresh Phactory works with indie artists, meaning independent artists, because at one time we did. We worked with independent artists. Those are people who are actual artists, actual drawers, visual artists, painters, sculptors, and then that sort of progressed into more tangible artistry, which is people who had their own clothing brands, shoe brands, jewelry brands, and basically all of those individuals ended up needing a group of people to do things for them. I don't know how much you know about doing business by yourself, but doing business by yourself is not the easiest thing. You do have to find contractors to do things at certain periods of time because you just can't do it all alone. There are things that an individual can complete by themselves, but if you want to grow, you will have to have help. It's just the way the world works. So, as we worked with those individuals and then companies, we learned a lot about the hiring process along the way. We learned that sometimes artistic people don't like time schedules, and we learned that that is not how you make money. So we took those lessons and continued to move on with different groups of people. Phresh Factory has managed teams for a kickboxer at one time, a comedian we worked on a team to create the grouping around. It just it just was a lot of different experiences that led us to where we are today. Technology has been a large part of the hiring process for us and the team creation. So maybe 10 years ago, companies were not necessarily thinking working from home. We're not thinking about working globally using technology, but we've been in that space for a very long time, putting together people and groups over the internet for a decade plus. So now in 2022, as we're building teams not because the pandemic just happened. We're building teams for businesses because we've done it for a long time and we know some of what has worked, some of what has not worked, and can bring in maybe a level head for some of these businesses in a way that will help them hopefully skip over some of the potholes that exist in business and create a strategy that will work for the long term. So we're not just a turnkey, and we hope that our strategies being taken on by these companies will help everyone in the long term. So this show, Kiera of All Trades, discusses some of the different positions that we have discovered along the way and what they include, what jobs are, what they do, what kind of person would be good at fulfilling them, and how one would decide if they'd be a good fit for them. It just will go through the experiences that we've had along the way. As an individual, a person watching this show will help themselves by going along the steps with us. It is sometimes career development that's at the top of the sheet of priorities for this show. But career development is also personal development. If a person is developed personally, they can see an opportunity and capture it. The same in career. If you know your strengths and you know your weaknesses, if an opportunity exists and presents itself, you will be able to check off all of the things on your list and determine that it fits what you desire and go after it. Sometimes, no matter how great you are, no matter how you have prepared, if you haven't assessed what you want going forward, an opportunity could present itself that you don't capture. Maybe because you weren't ready, maybe because you weren't paying attention. But if career is something that we all have to keep top of mind because we all have to earn income, then it's something that we should be planning and not planning at the time that we're looking for a job. Here's a good question. If you're working and you've been working, this is for someone who's been working at their job for 20 plus years. Do you write down all of the tasks and all of the areas that you have new learnings? I would say most people don't, because once you get to a certain position, once you have gotten, I'm going to call it complacent, you expect for the rest of the journey to continue and to be led by the company. I own a company. I have worked for businesses, and at no point should I rest on my laurels and take into consideration that even though we are a part of their business, that they have as much influence in my company as I do. As an individual, every person, no matter how long you've been on your job, can consider themselves to be a freelancer, right? If the right opportunity presents itself and it's made available to you, why would you not make the decision to at least think about whether or not those opportunities meet your desires? Maybe your desires of yesterday are not your desires of today. Let's take into consideration, even if it's a homemaker, a person who has no need to make any income, the income is coming from elsewhere. What happens if you're in a position where there's a family member, a loved one, or anyone that you would like to help? If that current income is not in a state that you can provide the assistance that you want for that friend or family member, wouldn't it be great to have a good understanding about your strengths and weaknesses in a way that you could even temporarily capture income that would help you to help your friend or family member? It's not necessarily that everyone is going to need a job. It's not everyone is looking for a job. This is more about creating opportunities and having the freedom of choice. So I would say, even if I was a 17-year-old at my parents' house, one of the things is you're staying at your parents' house because they pay all the bills, right? 17 years old, you're probably in not any position to be able to take care of bills on your own. You're probably not in a position where you could do all of the things for yourself that your parents are able to do. So, what is the difference between a 30-year-old man who is dating a 50-year-old woman and the 50-year-old woman decides that she wants a second husband? So, are you no different than a 17-year-old if you have no understanding about what your capabilities are revenue wise? If you have an understanding about where your strengths and your weaknesses lie, if a condition presents itself that you are not in agreement with, you now have options. That's the whole name of this show. It is to create a scenario where you think about different options that exist in the world so that you always have an option to make a decision and you are not stuck. Business owner. Business owner, if you have a crappy client and your crappy client is your only moneymaker, listen, this is nothing to do with any clients of mine. Hi, I love y'all. Hey, okay, we're good. But if you are in a situation where you have a very few clients, very crappy clients, but they're the ones that are paying, that's a situation where now you're stuck. So you're stuck dealing with this crappy client because they're the ones who are footing the bills, right? You're out of options. Is that because you have made yourself stuck? Because you have not presented yourself as an open option to others? Could be. But the whole point of this show is just to be able to present the options. I think a lot of business shows show things that are not necessarily the full picture. So, the reason why it's called Kiera of all trades is because along the way, I have also had to have a lot of jobs. Because while I was trying to make Phresh Phactory Inc. or Phresh Phactory become solid and financially stable and income producing, there were times that it wasn't. As a matter of fact, for a very long time, it wasn't. I would make money from my job and then take that money and put it into the business. It just didn't necessarily come back out. Maybe if I would have known that those experiences were not there to necessarily make me income at the time, those experiences were there to help me be a better hiring manager for companies, I would have looked at it differently. But at the time, all I knew was that I wanted my business to flourish, and sometimes you have to involve your own finances if that's what you really want. There's nothing that we want that we don't have to make some sort of investment in. Whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's talent, we all have to invest something to get something back. And no one told us how much of that thing that you invest would require in order to get what you wanted to get back out of it. That's just life. So now 10 years plus, I have worked many jobs, used those dollars in order to invest in Phresh Phactory and Phresh Phactory Inc. in a way that now, 10 years later, I can have a good in-depth conversation with companies about several types of positions, several ways to manage them, the usage of technology, all of the different capacities that there are in a way that will be beneficial to their business. And I'm talking from experience. That is not the way that I planned it, but I'm not apparently the ultimate planner of life. So, this show will be very honest. I will discuss with you the jobs that I've had, and I have had lots. I have been in work outfits, I have had dirty boots, I have used my own skills and abilities to maintain them, to reduce my overhead. I have worked positions in my own company. It is based on real life activities of my own that this show exists. One other thing that I found is along the way, I always found myself teaching people information. I remember being an insurance adjuster and speaking to people about their home insurance. These are people that have had experiences where a hurricane or a flood or hail came and brought very destructive patterns to their local neighborhood and very closely to their own homes. People have had insurance for 20, 30, 50 years and never had to use it. And the time came when they had to use it and people were clueless. As a person who always learns first and explains next, it was very helpful for me to understand that no matter what a person has as far as experience in another area, they are not always in depth in knowledge in every area. I have explained insurance to doctors, to attorneys, to judges, to police officers, to insurance agents. because not everyone's capacity is the same as another's. So, if there's nothing else that you learn from today's episode, just giving a little bit of backstory about why Kiera of All Trades exists, why Phresh Phactory Inc. is putting itself out in order for other people to know that it exists, is that I want you to know that you have something special that somebody else needs. I didn't think at the time that I was working those different jobs that that would ever be a plus. That is not how I was raised. I was not raised to think that if you have a job and you are getting paid and you can sustain yourself, that you leave it. That is not how I was raised. I was raised that if you get a good job, stay at it, sustain your family, find other ways to produce income in addition to that, and always continue to build. These are structured patterns that worked for a while until, as we know, the job market and businesses in general did not have the same type of loyalty to the person as the person had to the company. So, if you ask me, every person is a freelancer or should consider themselves to be. It is a contract world in today's arena that allows a person who is currently employed to not feel guilty about looking for other opportunities. Other opportunities may exist, they might not. But if you have a good grasp of exactly what your strengths and weaknesses are, how you want to work, do you want to work remote? Do you want to live somewhere else? Do you need to be available only for a certain amount of hours? Do you want to work with companies that only have a specific purpose? These are the things that if you plan ahead of time, you can capture those opportunities if they present themselves. Actually, you can find out that you actually want an opportunity and you can present yourself. These these things go both ways. It's not a one-way street. But I most definitely wanted to give a little bit of a backstory about why Kiera of All Trades exists. I'm not telling someone else's story. I'm telling my own. I'm not presenting someone else's business. I'm presenting my own. I just hope that the information that's being presented, as honestly as I possibly can, fills in some of the gaps that some people are not being told. Yes, entrepreneurship is where it's at. It is the bee's knees. But bees work hard. Bees don't work by themselves, and they definitely have a product that they are able to put out, and they're very useful. So, are you being very useful? Am I being very useful? Are we being useful to our max capacity? That's the reason why Cure of All Trades as a show even presented itself. It's like, if I know these things, what am I doing with it? Do I feel that I'm using my full capacity when I'm not sharing? I don't think so. As a matter of fact, Cure of All Trades actually was recorded previously about 7 or 8 years ago, and I just never put it out. Because at the time, I watched some of those episodes back, and at the time, I think I'm going to show those episodes because it brings back a little bit of information about how I was at the time and what I was thinking. Essentially, we work as partners with owners of business to make sure that everyone else is in line and every process is in line. But I actually recorded those episodes with my then mentors. Not to say that they're not my mentors anymore, but just like everything, there's a time and a place, and as things progress, you don't necessarily need the same things as you needed then. At the time, I was working very closely with nonprofits. I was on the board of directors on a nonprofit, one in specific, where I ended up finding a mentor who wrote a book called Ideas. His name is Dr. John Eggert. And Dr. John Eggert wrote a book about ideas, which really hit me because I'm a idea generating person. What he did as a profession, as a PhD, was coach CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. And for that person to be a mentor to me was amazing because he saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. I let that be the last time. I had the confidence of the position where I was, which, as I told you at the time, Phresh Phactory Inc. wasn't really making a whole bunch. It wasn't like a super spectacular company that was, coming out in Forbes magazine. I was just making it where I was off of pure effort, but it wasn't where it could have been or where I thought it should be. But at the time when I met Dr. John Eggert, I explained to him lots of things about how to run a group. I was on the board. He came in as the president of the board, and I explained to him how different personalities work together. I explained to him how he could divvy up the work. I explained to him lots of things that I knew specifically about people, how to put teams together, how they can best work so that he could get the outcome that he was looking for because he had the information that was necessary. He's the coach. He's the one who coaches these Fortune 500 CEOs, and he knows exactly the outcome that he's looking for. But there's a missing key. There has to be someone in between that helps one person to do what they're trying to do and gives them a structured way to do it. I didn't even know at the time that's what I was doing. I just was helping. In hindsight, that was the first time that I really was able to see my experiences culminate together in a way that actually showed me a preview of what it could be later on. So I think I will show some of those episodes of the previous show. But at the time, even after I recorded those shows with my mentors, I never put it out. So this is 7, 8 years ago, right? This is 2022. I probably put those out, probably recorded those in 2015. I never put those out because after I watched them, I definitely felt like I had imposter syndrome. I was thinking to myself, who in the world am I to be saying that my company is going to become all of these things that I know it's not today? Because it was not that today. It's not that today. I mean, it wasn't that 7 years ago. But my company's still not where I want it to be today. But one of the reasons why my company is not where it needs to be today or where I can see it going is because for these last 7 years, the last 10 years, 12 years, very few people knew that I existed. How can you hire my company if you don't know that I exist? Duh! That's the thing. Like, you have to be able to even see that I'm an option if you're going to hire me. So, what was I thinking? So, these 7 years that passed by, I'm thinking, why is my company not becoming bigger? Because no one can hire us if they don't know about us. Hello? It's the same thing for an individual person. Like, if you go home and complain about it every day, but you're not making any moves, then what do you think is going to happen tomorrow? If I had somebody who ran my business for me and I got to keep majority of the money and give them some and they came back next week, do you think I'm going to change? No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm a nice person and I mean well to people, but I'm not. All the time when there are opportunities for different educational things to come up, I tell my staff, hey, if you guys want to go learn about this, I will send you to class, whatever you want to do. It's up to them. Everyone has a different home situation. Whatever works for them, that's fine. Whatever works for you, that's fine. But I'm a person who likes to learn things. So I go and get the education, then I participate in some kind of way to use the education, and I might be done with it. I don't know. But I got the education already, and I have the experience. So if the situation comes up that all of this crumbles down to the floor, I can go and get a job. I can go get a good paying job. I can sustain myself, and I won't be stuck. That's the whole point of this whole show. I want to make sure that I tell the truth. I want to give the full background on what it's like to have a business, what it's like to have different jobs, maybe expose you to jobs that you never heard of. Maybe you have heard of these and you just don't know how to get them, so we'll talk about it. I also want to make sure that my own company has some exposure. I want people to know that they can hire Phresh Phactory if they need human capital management for their own firms. I have a long term vision that all of those experiences that I have will help many types of companies. It was an accident that it happened this way, I suppose, because if you would leave it up to me, I would have just written complete world domination by my company the first year that it was open. And it never works out like that. You just have to experience life for what it is. But the smartest people use other people's experience in order to enhance theirs. So I'm going to sit here on this chair every week on Sundays and I'm going to tell you about things that I have seen, heard, experienced, learned, and hopefully you will take these 30 minutes on Sundays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time and learn something about it. Learn something about you because I may not be able to give a job to every single person that watches this show, but I can impart a little piece of knowledge, hopefully that will help you do better for your family. Make sure that you're not stuck. Give yourself a fighting chance to become who you want to become. Maybe if the situation changes in your current circumstances where you might already be happy and comfortable, that you will have other options. That's the whole point. I just want this career development show to bottom line be a personal development show, a personal empowerment show so that you can always depend on you if the situation comes up and the need exists. I think that's it. So, thank you so much for coming to my show today. This is Kiera on Kiera of All Trades on Phresh Phactory TV. I thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I'd like to see you again next Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Feel free to send any information, questions, inquiry in the comments section. Email us. Check us out on Instagram. If you want to listen to this in audio fashion, you can go to any audio podcast platform and we're on it. I just want you to get the information. Send it to your friends, your family members, your statesmen, all of them. I just want this information out and I want whoever needs it to hear it. So, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming to Kiera of All Trades, brought to you by Phresh Phactory TV. Hope you have a very blessed week. Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye.
Think about your ideas and make them happen.